All right, it's packaging the stream. All right, we're up.
All right, good evening, everyone. We are now in open session of the Board of Education meeting of April 13th, 2020. Our first item up, or our next item up, is the communications, recognitions, and information. And the board has decided that while we're doing Zoom meetings, virtual meetings, it really just isn't feasible to have a public comments section to our meeting. And so we've asked everyone to continue to submit comments, questions, etc. Via email. And although we're not going to read them, we do review them, and they are part of our correspondence log. So that log has been updated for all board members, and all board members have access to it. Our next item is the board calendar, which is mostly irrelevant at this point, at least through the end of May. John, is there anything you wanted to call our attention to?
Not at this point. Not at this point. Nope.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have questions about the calendar?
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
The Jim Shamble Run virtual, is that just meaning that people are just going to donate, simply donate to, or is somebody actually?
Good question. I don't know.
Peter, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I know it's a donation opportunity. I'll find out and I'll get that to you guys.
Okay.
I feel like I saw something about that on Facebook. I don't remember where.
Me too. Thank you.
And I had a question about the early dismissal. Are we doing that?
You know what? I don't know, Christine. That's something that we haven't looked at. I will figure that out. I don't think so, but let me get back on that one too.
That's so next month.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, though.
And I'm sorry, one more. The staff recognition, is that going to be virtual as well? Or are you doing something
Next
online?
up on the agenda.
Andy's going to talk about that next.
Okay, okay. Got it. Oh, next. Got it. Sorry.
All right, good segue. Sandy, you want to talk about the staff recognition event?
Sure. Hello. So our staff recognition, of course, typically occurred at the high school, but due to the most recent decision to close school as we know of it through the end of the school year, we have determined to meet again as a committee. Our initial thought or hope, the last time we met was prior to that decision, and our initial hope was that we were returning on April 23rd. Of which we were still going to plan to have the event as scheduled at the high school on May 13th. However, now that we are closing, the committee initially thought if we were not back in session, that the recommendation would be to still try to create a video, such as we did last year, capturing images and voice information or people recording themselves via the electronic world, and then still developing a video and then issuing everyone their gift via mail. I think that will probably be our plan B. Not sure, just think, if we're not back by May 21st, are we able to, be in a public place? I don't know what those rules will be when this order will be lifted. So at this point, outside of the committee meeting again, our goal will be to still develop a video, still get the gifts that we would typically provide to people, but get those mailed to their homes. And with the video, honor people that way, put it on the website. And the committee was committed to trying to figure out if there were other ways we could honor people, but with retirees and some people relocating, we may not be able to capture as many as we had planned. So right now, nothing virtual outside of the development of the video that will be shared and ensuring that everyone receives their gift via mail or email. Any questions? All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Sandy. Dr. Simpson?
Yeah, going to give my folks a brief chance, a few of them to weigh in. Obviously, made the decision last week to cancel school. That was a joint decision made with regional superintendents. There was archdiocese, independent schools, charter school folks on the phone, representatives from St. Charles County, Jefferson County, Lincoln County. Just at the end of the day, felt it was something that we had to do with respect of where our region is, because that's what we were focusing in, what we were decision makers on. We felt it was the right decision. And up until that point, we have been told repeatedly that it was a decision for local school districts to make decisions as it related to COVID-19. We made the announcement agreed to make the announcement at 3 o'clock. And about that time, the governor came on and said that issued an order that we all had to be out of schools. So I will just continue to give a lot of kudos to my team, the people on this phone, for the proactive approach we took to this, anticipating that we would be out for a substantial period of time. We're seeing over and over again. It really benefited us a lot. Does that mean that our plans are foolproof and everything is going perfectly? No, not even close. But we are being the learners and problem solvers we look to instill in our kids, and problem solving things on a daily basis. And again, it's a lot of the people, certainly teachers are doing it with all that they're doing, as well as the people that are on our screen here tonight, the administrators. I'll give a few of them, some of my cabinet members, a chance just to chime in and share a little bit from their lens of the work since we last talked. Chris, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Since we met last time, we have instituted the full learning plan. We sent that out to all of our staff. They spent the bulk of the first week after spring break coordinating with each other, collaborating with each other, looking at that learning plan, participating in professional development on the best way to provide online instruction. Some of our teachers had never done so. Some of our teachers, more on the secondary setting, were a little bit more comfortable with that. And so we started pushing out lessons at the end of that week. Elementary principals and teachers started pushing out lessons at a slower pace, given that the bulk of our elementary students had not really learned in this manner before. Through all of the discussions and the collaborations that have been going on, last week we worked together as an elementary administrative team and then again as a middle school administrative team to revise our initial learning plan just a little bit. We got a lot of feedback from our staff, also from parents in the community, to try and streamline the learning plan to meet the needs of the greatest amount of people within our community and our students. So those revised lessons and plans were pushed out at the end of last week on Friday for implementation of this week. And so we'll use those plans for the next couple of weeks and then plan on surveying our parents to see where we are with meeting the needs of as many people as we can. We are still in the process of handing out Chromebooks. Bill Kay is on this call as well, but he's been doing a lot of work recently about that. We have all, to our knowledge, all families who needed help with Wi-Fi connectivity have been given hotspots, so connectivity is not an issue. Just every day, a few families will reach out, hey, it would be helpful if we had additional Chromebooks. So that's where we're at right now. but we don't feel that technology access or connectivity are issues that are affecting our students at this time.
Pam, you want to jump?
Hello, everyone. Couple things. Since we've been out for a couple weeks and going to be out for a few more weeks, we do have all the building temperature controls set to the unoccupied mode right now. We've had our trash pickups reduced to once a week at the buildings instead of 2 or 3 times at the buildings. We're working on in the business office keeping track of expenditures for COVID-19. Things that we've purchased for this, since we will be receiving some funding through the CARES Act. So we're trying to be proactive and make sure we're ready for that. We're estimating we could receive about $200,000 through that CARES Act. So we're anxiously awaiting that news. The meal program has been going really, really well at Hudson. We have 250 families signed up. They've been serving anywhere from 158 to 224 meals this past Friday, so pretty remarkable. And right now on the delivery schedule, they are delivering meals to 66 families every day. So it's really a pretty phenomenal program going on there. That's all I had.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump on?
Just from an HR lens, we've held meetings with each building as well as support staff just to ensure that they have all of the resources that they need. We have also developed a number of ways for them to disclose if they are in need of support, whether that be internet or medical or insurance needs. So we have been very diligent in trying to get that completed. We've assigned a liaison, an HR liaison per school, so that people know who they can contact directly if they need any support, so that they're not trying to contact a specific person. We have also developed a COVID-19 disclosure form that provides all of our employees with information on what to do to help keep yourselves and your families safe. Also, if I do believe that I contracted the virus from someone or something, what steps I should take. So we're still trying to make sure that we're informing all of our staff members what to do if in fact they are involved with that type of scenario. We have offered some support sessions. As you all know, there have been a couple of well, one current and one previous staff member. And so we've been providing a number of supports for them as they work through this time. So our work right now is just kind of being a support daily to staff and answering questions and being a resource at this point as we begin to look at a re-entry plan, right? So what will it look like once we do return to school? What are plans and what are steps that we need to take to ensure our employees, our schools are safe and our employees are safe as well as our children.
Any questions that you have, board members, about anything that you heard or anything that you're wondering about?
Yeah, so something that both Sandy and Pam spoke to is the school lunches and the delivery of such. And I'm glad we're able to provide that kind of support, but reading about Ferguson and 2 of their bus drivers who were delivering meals and they died of COVID and they've stopped delivering meals. I just wondered if we're kind of staying on top of issues that might pop up there, or how are we keeping our people safe?
Yeah. When you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, so one thing, we're using vehicles, not buses, to deliver, and they are dropping off, you know, on the porch or whatever area is designated for that family. There's no contact when they're making the delivery. I think sometimes what was happening, what I heard at least from another district, when they were using buses, they were having trouble with, they pull up to the house and the kids would want to run up on the bus and get their meals. So they had more contact then. I just spoke to our director, Nancy, again in detail on Friday about this, and she really feels pretty confident that they are taking all the necessary precautions.
And we have ensured a reminder, right? Because there's 2 parts of it that we see. One is the medical, the physical, the other is the mental, right? And so how am I feeling seeing those news stories, knowing that I'm doing this every day, and more of our food care workers are being diagnosed, right? And so I've talked with Pam and in processing just about how are we ensuring mentally that we're tapping into employees daily. How are you? Are you okay? Do you have a need? If so, what is it? To make sure that we're providing that support. This is a very scary time. And so what are we? So those are conversations that we're definitively having just to let people know that we're here and to support them. And again, what are those measures? The masks, the gloves, the hand sanitizer, the, less contact, keeping the 6 feet, making sure we're maintaining those things. So those reminders for those components as well. Yeah.
Yeah, those safety precautions are big, and it is and that's kind of been that a lot of our focus, because we can do a lot of things pretty efficiently, but when you add the safety component, they're not as efficient, and it's a lot more challenging. But that has to be our number one priority. The state continues to encourage us, and DESE continues to encourage us to implement our meal programs as safely as we can. I do know some districts that have suspended theirs temporarily, or trying to figure out some of those safety elements, and we'll open them back up a little bit tighter, they feel. But that's a great question. That's one thing, Christine, that we've really, with everything that we're doing, we're not asking people to do things that we're making sure anybody that does anything as safe as possible. But also, if people are expressing discomfort with participating in a meal program or something like that, we're staying away from not having them do it.
Thank you. And I had another question, and I think I've seen or heard in the household some of the things that you're doing to keep kids safe. But knowing that we're all, as board members, mandated reporters now, I'm curious, what efforts has the district put in place to keep kids safe from predatory behaviors online?
John or Tim or Chris, do one of you guys want to talk about that?
Well, I'll talk. I didn't know if Tim wanted to jump in. So we have instituted a number of steps during the Zoom meetings for students to ensure their safety. First of all, for the Zoom accounts, the accounts that are used are teacher accounts. They're not students. So none of our students' personal information is within the Zoom platform. So that's one thing. I know that's been a concern that's been expressed. The other thing is we use a program called Clever, which allows online platforms of a variety. We use it for a lot of our different learning platforms, goes through Clever and allows us to sync and also monitor usage. So by doing that, it adds another layer of safety. In addition, we have, when Zoom meetings are occurring, the teachers have to provide a password for the students in order for them to enter. And then as they enter, just like the meeting we had tonight, you have to be invited into the meeting. You're muted, your video is off. So all of these things are different measurements of safety that we put in place for our students in order to assure their safety. Tim, do you want to say anything? You jumped on.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So kind of thinking of the multi-steps of getting into these platforms, what we've done, and Chris kind of already spoke to it a little bit. Originally, how Zoom is set up, it's just a encrypted link, which does not require a password. That is the password when it's encrypted that way. So we've disabled that so that students and parents and anyone logging in are automatically having to click on the link, then put in a meeting password, and then they get put into the waiting room. We've also turned off things like annotations. We've enabled teachers the ability to push them either back into the waiting room or to completely remove them from sessions. And then thinking too of the waiting room feature, all students are then brought into the session muted as well as with video off. But it's a multi-layer kind of step process that we've done so that if somebody were to join and the teacher doesn't know who they are, they don't have to accept them into the session. And then we've done a whole bunch of other stuff with Zoom specifically. So. Any other questions?
Any other questions for folks?
I have a quick question, and maybe just kind of a reiterating, only because the conversation in my household was about how these grades aren't going to count. So I know better, and maybe just to maybe kind of clarify how or what's going to be done with the grades for this little section of the semester.
Mhm. Those are determined by grade level. So for elementary students who didn't really receive grades to begin with, students will receive a narrative. Parents will receive a narrative summary of the learning that's occurring during this trimester. So that will happen at the elementary level. At the 6th grade level, it's going to be more of a hold harmless situation. So looking at the grades from the point of where they ended before spring break, and then how that could, that wouldn't necessarily impact their grade moving forward. It could help but not hurt. Middle school at Hickson, they're looking more at a pass-fail process. So again, looking at making sure that kids are still involved, but not necessarily hurting their grades as long as they're engaged. And then the high school is, they're in a little bit different situation because of grade point averages and things like that. So they're also looking at more of a hold harmless, but expecting students to be part of that and engaged, because they're looking at the credit acquisition and grade point averages and things like that.
Thank you.
Other questions, guys? I do have one. I was wondering, and I'm getting a message that my connection is unstable. So can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What are we doing to ensure that students who receive special education services are receiving those services, and also students who have Section 504 plans? Are we, I mean, I know a lot of that, if they have IEPs, that falls on SSD, but I'm just wondering, what are we doing to communicate with them to make sure that the kids are getting what they need? And in particular, I think about there's some things that we can do virtually and some things we can't, but I expect that the kids who have social emotional needs, those needs are even greater right now. And I'd like to know what we're doing to make sure we're meeting those kids' needs.
Right. Well, John, you want to talk?
Sure, I'll start and you can fill in what I miss. But yeah, I meet daily with my SSD counterparts, Katina, and then the area coordinators, and we're looking at the plan that SSD has put in place of how to deliver services for students and also how to carry on the IEP process and so on. And they'll continue having IEP meetings and the various meetings with parents. They'll just do it in a virtual format. And then our SSD staff are still supporting students. They've been invited to be a part of the Google Classrooms of our teachers who are teaching classes that have children with IEPs in them. And so they're aware of the content that's being covered, the lessons that are being done, and supporting their students that way. And then we're doing the same thing with our students who have 504s. I would say the only thing that's really changed is that SSD is not providing homebound support for students who if we were in buildings, would be receiving homebound support. So we've just are providing instruction for those students via their regular teacher or their courses that they would have taken.
I don't really have anything else to add to that. Though I
That
did
makes sense.
attend your session, Amy, a couple
Oh, you
weeks
did?
ago.
This wasn't a promo. I just really want to make sure we're doing it.
Amy, if you can hear, you're sounding, you're disjointed.
Amy, I might encourage you to turn off your video, but not your audio, and see if that might help. We missed the last part of that.
Salary schedules?
All right, Sandy, you're up.
Okay. All right. So thank you guys for this opportunity to present to you, hopefully for your approval, the 2021 support staff salary structure. In the board item agenda, you will see both the support staff recommendation as well as Adventure Club, which is support staff. We just separated them, but they're all under the same support staff umbrella. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank you as a board. When we initially started this work in 16, 17, there was no equity with regard to the support staff salary structure. With your guidance and your support, we were able to modify it and try to make it as equitable as possible. We are happy to report this year that through a lot of the hard work of the committee, we are recommending, hopefully, to pay our support staff at 3% above county median. The celebration in that is that there were a good number of our support staff categories that truthfully were already at 3% or a little bit above. So it does not require as much equity as it did and as much work as we had to do 2 to 3 years ago. I think we've slowly kind of chipped at this concern for support staff, and I think we're at a really good spot. The committee did meet twice this year. Representatives, we actually met in person the first meeting, and the second meeting was over Zoom. And so what we're presenting to you is definitely a more equitable salary structure. When you compare us to county median, we are right there, either at the top third or in the mid category for all of our support staff categories. And again, the committee was very pleased with what we were able to recommend and provide for this time. What you will also note in the support staff information is recommendation for aides. Our aides is the only really support group, aides and instructional tutors, that are paid based off of student instructional days. So just want to point this out to you that typically our student instructional days were 177. But as you remember, due to the recent change in legislation, our student instructional days, we couldn't start school as early as we normally would. So we've dropped our student instructional days to 174. In order to not reduce our aides employment days, their employment days are typically 181. And in order to not reduce that, we are offering them the opportunity to receive 4 paid holidays. That's the only employee group in the entire district that's not paid holidays. So this group would be paid 4, teachers are paid 6 holidays. And then they would also receive 3 PD days that will occur before the start of school. And that would make them whole at their current 181 days. So truthfully, there is no change, but there is a change. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that change. The other component was an add to the aides who their number of work hours per day. Currently, with the new change that we just approved, adding 20 instructional minutes to the day, some of our aides are not 8-hour aides. So they may be 6-hour aides or 7-hour aides. And so what we are recommending is that there would be a 30-minute increase to the aides who do not work more than an 8-hour day, so that the schools can still have the necessary coverage they need for arrival and dismissal and during the school day. So that is another ask in this support staff recommendation. And so the goal of that, again, is to ensure that all of our aides have enough time to support the students throughout the instructional day. So in totality, that's pretty much what we're recommending at this time. There weren't, the committee, again, was appreciative, and they brought some ideas to the table. We were able to research and bring them back to them. So I feel like we're in a good place with the support staff group. They wanted to maintain their current evaluation process, so there were no questions or concerns about that. So we'll continue forward with that. So again, the hope is that you will approve the recommendations, and then the draft of the 2021 support staff salary structure with the Adventure Club's salary structure embedded in there. Are there any questions? Okay.
This needs a motion for approval. And the motion's on the document.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed support staff salary structure for the 2020-21 school year.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, thank you. You're still up, Dr. Riley.
So the second one, if you guys remember, also a couple of years ago, we removed the nurses from the support staff group in order to provide them with the support that they need for the concerns they have for that group. Last year, we didn't need it all as a support staff, as a nurses group. They felt pretty confident with what was going on. And so we just kind of made a recommendation, and they were perfectly okay. This year, we did meet twice. And the nurses had some requests, and one of those requests was to recommend the following: that we pay nurses commensurate with their degree even after their hire. So for example, if I'm a nurse and I'm hired as an RN, but I do go back to school and receive my BSN, could I be paid considering I have now my BSN? And so that was their request, to be paid for that. Also, they were wanting to have a job sharing opportunity, and we do have a nurse's aide position in the district, and so that aide position could be a job sharing. So while it's a full-time position, maybe one nurse could work 4 hours, another nurse 4 hours. So instead of it being like one solid person for the 8 hours, and we told them that we could work with that if that's what they're looking for. And then also knowing that Hickson will be going to almost 1,000, student body in the next year or two. Their request was to have an aide to support Hickson. Right now, there is one aide that supports high school and Hickson. But with the current medical needs that's coming up, and with the sheer number of students that will be in Hickson, the request was also for them to be an aide there at Hickson, and high school maintain its aide. And all of that's kind of embedded in the budget for this upcoming year. So the other celebration that we want to share is that all of our nurses' salaries, the base was at our 3% target for our nurses, if not above. And so there was really no adjustment that needed to be made with regard to that, because they have, again, thanks to your support, they have met that mark. So all of our nurses will receive a 2% increase across the board. There is no equity or additional work we need to do to make them competitive, because the salary currently is competitive for our nurses. So that's all that I really have for the nurses. Were there any questions or wonderings about the nurses?
All right, we do need a motion to approve this as well.
I make a motion to approve the 2020-21 nurses salary structure.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Frazier, bids for safety security project.
Yes, so as you know, we solicited bids for design package number 2, which was safety and security projects, which is the secure vestibules at all of the buildings except for Hickson. And then the accessibility part of that package is the elevators at Avery, Bristol, and Edgar Road, and then ramps at Edgar Road, Steger, and Hudson. So on March 31st at 2 o'clock, we opened bids and we have received 4 proposals. They range from $3,295,000 to $3,729,000. After the bid opening, the 2 low bid contractors were interviewed by Honer Associates, our architectural firm, along with Mr. Rob Stuber. After that interview process, the low bid vendor withdrew their bid, leaving Wachter then as the low bid at $3,421,000. That project came in almost $1 million under our estimated amount, which we had in the budget, so that was good news. And we still have $500,000 left over that we're going to call design package number 2A. That is still in the design phase for security on our doors and windows. So that part of the security package will be coming back to you at a later date to be approved. So at this point, we're recommending Wachter Incorporated at $3,421,000 for design package number 2.
I have a quick question. Is there a way, so are we able to start any of this sooner than originally planned, given that we aren't returning to school?
Yes, we are working with the contractors to try to get them in just as soon as we are ready.
Great.
And Pam, why did the initial low bidder withdraw?
I'm going to let Rob, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Yeah.
There was some discrepancies in the numbers that they provided us within their bid package. We found some inconsistencies and some numbers that were incorrect, and they actually brought it to our attention first thing upon our original phone call for their interview. So they stepped up to the plate and they said, hey, we messed up our numbers. So we went ahead and we actually went through the whole interview process just to make sure that we fulfilled our obligation. And then the following day, they did confirm that their number was incorrect. So we did allow them to withdraw their bid.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Shall I make a motion?
Please.
Any other? Okay. Motion to accept the proposal for Wachter Inc. for design package number 2 in the amount of $3,421,000.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you. Next up, we have bids for Hickson construction.
We received bid proposals for the Hickson project on April the 2nd. Those range from $17,977,000 to $19,189,000. That came in at almost $2 million over the projected amount. So shortly after the bid opening, we worked with DHA Architects. Rob was involved, of course, and we met with the low bid contractor ICS and worked on some value engineering items. We went through a rather extensive list of items that could be reduced in the project. We came to agreement on several of those items, which total $502,577, bringing that low bid down to $17,474,423. So that aligns then the project with our bid with the almost $1 million we saved on the other project. We're saving $500,000 here. And then we had another $500,000 set aside in district funds It actually, when Mr. Ellerman built the budget, he had $500,000 set aside for Prop E projects if it was needed. Well, at this time, it looks like we're going to need that. I do want to point out, though, in both of the projects, there are allowances built in those projects. So if we don't use all of the allowances, we maybe will not have to use all of the district proceeds that we have set aside. So based on the experience that I had working with ICS at the Wentzville School District, and then Don Husband with DHA also had good experience with them on some projects, we are recommending ICS. Do you have any questions?
I'll ask the same question that Alex did a second ago. Any chance of getting started sooner?
Rob, do you want to answer that one? You're working on that one already.
Yeah, for both of the design packages, if it was the normal school calendar, we had a whole lot of activities that were actually the responsibility of the school district to perform. And those activities are relocating files within offices, relocating furnitures out of specific classrooms that will be demolished, a lot of the personal items the teachers have within those classrooms. There's a whole laundry list of things that we have to self-perform first. And that's actually what I've been doing over the last 2 weeks, is priming all of the principals on if we were able to start early, let's make sure that all those individuals in those specific areas are ready to go voluntarily, obviously. And over the past 2 days, I've already been having my principal conversations once we found out that school was going to be called off for the rest of the year. And there are a couple of the projects, the schools that we have some abatement activities. And then at Hickson, we actually have a standalone boiler removal project. So there's a lot of things that are moving right now. As soon as we get all of our district responsibility issues out of the way, then we can start the contractors. And when I say that, it's mostly for the inside work, and there's definitely plenty of outside work to be done. So to answer your question kind of twofold, I do believe that we will definitely be able to start the contractors earlier than the original dates.
Great, thank you, Rob.
Yeah, you bet.
Other questions?
Yeah, if I could ask a question, it seems to make sense how you're getting the money for this one, but does that still leave a little bit of money? I know I've heard for the safety one, I've heard people saying when you get into the buildings, you might find some things, and that might raise the price for the elevators. Would we still have money in case they were to encounter problems?
Yes, we do. We have contingency funds set aside, and there's also an allowance in the project on the safety security project. Rob, do you remember that allowance amount?
I think that was $150,000 of additional contingencies.
So you feel like that's a comfortable?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, I do. Actually, we've all spent a lot of time, including the contractors, walking those buildings, looking at the assemblies, looking at the areas for installation. Do I expect something unknown? Yes, but that is why the contingencies are there. So I think that we've done a really good job planning, and we think we're going to do really well on this one.
Okay, thank you.
And
Yes.
on top of those allowances, we have $100,000 set aside of the district Prop E funds too, in case additional issues would arise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? If not, we'll need a motion to approve the recommendation.
Thanks, PM and Rob, for your work on this. I make a motion to approve the revised bid from ICS Construction Services in the amount of $17,474,423 for the additions and alterations at Hickson Middle School.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, Pam. Next up, bank depository bid approval.
So school districts are required to go out to bid at least every 5 years for bank depository services. So we did that. We did receive 3 proposals, one from Commerce Bank, one from PNC, which is our current depository bank, and one from First Bank. In the request for proposals, there is a requirement that they're supposed to submit a $2,500 good faith deposit check. We received that from First Bank and PNC, but we did not receive, First Bank and Commerce, but we did not receive that from PNC. Commerce and First Bank's bids were pretty competitive. When you look at just the fees, Commerce fees would average about $1,200 a month and First Bank $897. The interest rates were a little bit different. Commerce Bank was 85% of the federal funds rate, where First Bank is 75% of the federal funds rate plus 10 basis points. The Finance Committee did review those bids. We had a subcommittee first that reviewed them in detail. Then we shared it with the entire Finance Advisory Committee, and their recommendation, along with the recommendation from myself and Joanne, is to go with First Bank starting on July 1st. And I know and David's a part of that committee also, so I didn't know if he had anything he would like to add.
So I first have a question. Can you explain the check that everybody is required to deposit in order to bid? Can you explain that in a little bit more detail, please?
Yeah, so that actually, the state statute reads, the title of the statute, and I don't remember the number now, is there is a deposit check required. So that's why that is built into the request for proposals.
And is that money, presumably, if you're not successful, that's money you get back then? And,
Yeah,
and
that goes
is it
back, yes.
okay? Yeah. So the one thing, so I would say, certainly appreciate all the work that the subcommittee and then the Finance Advisory Committee did. The one question that I had, obviously, PNC's been there for a long time. They've given us, I believe they've given us good service. And one of the other things that they've done is they have supported the various PTO organizations, the various school groups, anybody basically who has who's connected to the district, who has a bank account. PNC had made available, they'd basically be able to get checking at no charge for that group. It wasn't a requirement of the bid, and and obviously appropriately it's not part of the bid that goes out from the district, but nonetheless it's a value-added service. So when I heard we were switching, one of the questions I had a little bit of concern with was the new bank going to be able to provide that same level of support? Joanne and Pam reached out to First Bank. They said that they had a product that would be made available to the various groups that would have no charge to to those groups to put in place. So that was the only concern that I had. Obviously, it speaks to the importance of following instructions. I think the PNC had done a good job, but at the same time, there are requirements to do this, and so I'm supportive of the recommendation.
And I should also add, I've worked with First Bank in the past, and they have very good customer service. If you have an issue, and sometimes things happen, right? Things always come up. They really work hard to resolve that issue right away. And I've been very pleased with their service in the past.
And to be clear, I don't believe we've ever had any issues with PNC either. I think they've also, they're based here locally. They've done. I've been treasurer of more PTO groups and various other sort of school groups that I care to think about over time, and I've always found them to be very good as well. But fundamentally, we've got rules set down for a reason, and so but good, obviously good to understand that that there's an expectation of very strong service with the new provider as well.
David, thanks for catching that about the PTOs too. I appreciate that.
You can't have been a treasurer for any of these groups without it being something that comes to mind immediately. Thank you, though.
Right. Other questions for Pam? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, at this point, thank you, Pam. At this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will motion to approve consent agenda items 5.01, 5.02, 5.03, 5.04, 5.05, 5.06, 5.07, 5.08, 5.09, 5.10, and 5.11.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, at this point, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, at this point, we did not conclude our executive session business, so rather than a motion to adjourn, I'd appreciate a motion to reconvene into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel as previously posted.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Can we do a roll call vote, please, Sherry?
Yes, Ms. Clendenin,
Yes.
Mr. Addison,
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl,
Yes.
Ms. Keller,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn,
Yes.
Mr. Khan.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now we'll just wait until we have confirmation that we're no longer being broadcast live on YouTube. I still see the red light.
Hold on a second.